Hello, I am Alexis Dias.
And I'm Jenny Henley.
And this content acquisition podcast will be discussing pragmatics for ages 2 to 3 years old.
There are three main topics we are going to cover. They are, what is pragmatics, what are some key points in early pragmatic development, and why is it important to develop pragmatics during ages 2 to 3 years old.
We will first discuss what pragmatics is. According to Owens, pragmatics as a whole is the aspect of language concerned with language use within a communication context.
During the ages 2 to 3, pragmatics start to take shape. They now have the ability to start, maintain, and switch conversation topics. They participate in turn-taking, eye contact, satisfying needs and wants, interact, inform, and request or give information.
Now let's talk about some key points in early pragmatic development. Halliday's 7 pragmatic functions are instrumental, which is when the child tries to achieve their needs and wants. Regulatory, this is when the child wants to control the behavior of others, like this little boy in the picture attempting to get the adult to listen to what he is saying. Interactional is when the child is participating in conversation or discourse. Imaginative is when the child begins to pretend, play, and fantasize. Heuristic is when the child is asking questions to gain knowledge or information. Personal is when a child expressing individuality. And finally, informative is when the child provides information with others. However, according to the findings from the article Halliday's Communicative Functional Model Revisited, a case study, young children do not seem to have much problem with the expression of certain functions such as instrumental and regulatory, but they need more assistance with the development of functions such as imaginative and informative, as these require more linguistic sophistication.
Request for clarification is simply when a child either wants the adult to repeat what they said by saying what, or when the child repeats what the adult says to be sure they understood. For example, adult might say, "Did you like the movie?" And the child may say, "Did I like the movie?"
Topic introduction is when the child identifies the content in which they want to talk about. Like when a child wants to talk about Disney, they may start with, "I want to go to Disney and see the princesses." A child is more efficient at conversating when they initiate the topic rather than the partner. Maintenance is when the child maintains conversation with a partner, such as commenting on the partner's topics and turn-taking. But keep in mind that turn-taking and maintaining the conversation is limited at this age and will not go on for very long.
Contingency is when the child can reply with a relatable comment to what the speaker said. For example, the adult says, "What did you have for lunch today?" And the child replies, "I had a sandwich." Whereas shading is when one topic of conversation smoothly and unrecognizably moves on to another topic. For example, when you are talking about your visit to the store and how you bought a new pair of shoes and the other person says they really want to go clothes shopping and the conversation leads to your favorite shopping stores. A directive is when the child is wanting or needing something but in a demanding way. Like when a child says, "Mommy, more TV." A request is when a child attempts to get what they need or want by asking a question. For example, "Mommy, can I watch TV?"
Presuppositional skills are when the child knows to leave out certain topics in the conversation because they know it is already understood. For instance, child starts talking about what they did in school without explaining that they went to school because they know the listener already knows that.
Ellipsis becomes a more complex skill as they learn. It is when a child leaves out redundant information from the responses. For example, adult says, "What are you eating?" and child replies, "A cookie." The child leaves out the phrase, "I am eating," because it is redundant.
Deixis is when the child begins to use words such as there and when. For example, when a child says, "When are we going to go there?" while the adult is reading them a book about a zoo.
A narrative is when the child tells stories in a monologue form. In other words, the child now knows how to go on and on about a subject without assistance on what they want to talk about.
Theory of mind is when the child knows that the person they are conversing with may not know that they are talking about without context or feel the way they feel.
We should emphasize that these two topics, according to Owens, start to develop around 2 to 3 years of age and are not fully developed until around the age of 5.
Pragmatics is essential in childhood development. Children need this skill in order to appropriately interact with others. The children mainly acquire this skill from their caregivers, but becomes a big part of everyday interactions like school and playing with other children. Without pragmatics, a child will have a very hard time understanding others as well as others having a hard time understanding them.